thank you, Be Strong families, for giving me the opportunity to bring this information to you all today. I'm very excited about it. And as you heard from my bio, I'm a transpersonal psychologist, a researcher. I'm also a highly sensitive person. And it was my own journey that led me to conducting research on sensory processing sensitivity and seeing how important this topic is, how important it is to really get this information out, especially to people in helping professions, whether you're a social worker, an educator, therapist, counselor, or parent, to recognize sensory processing sensitivity in your children and the people that you serve. So let's go ahead and dive in. Just to give you a little idea of time, this presentation will take about 25 minutes, and then we will have plenty of time for questions and answers. So please put those questions into the chat as they come up, and we'll have a wonderful conversation about all of this when we are done with the presentation. So our agenda for today, we're going to begin talking about what is sensory processing sensitivity. It's something that many of you have probably never heard of. Some of you may have heard of it, but you might have some misconceptions about it. How do you know if you or someone in your life is a highly sensitive person? And then we're going to talk about how being highly sensitive affects well-being and what do highly sensitive people need. There are some benefits to being highly sensitive. So we're going to talk about those a little bit too, and then we'll go into our group discussion. Get to my, there we go. Oops. Went one slide too far. So what is sensory processing sensitivity? This is actually a normal biological trait that about 15 to 20% of humans share. And then about 100 other species also have sensory processing sensitivity. A highly sensitive person is someone who has sensory processing sensitivity. And highly sensitive people are simply more aware of subtle changes in the environment, and they're often more aware of people's emotional states. So we're going to talk a lot more in detail about what that's about. But first, I want to give you an example. If you want to think about what this might look like in an animal. Here is a prairie dog. And you can see the prairie dog is up and alert. It makes sense for a small percentage of a population of animals such as this to be more in tune, more aware of subtle changes in the environment. They can then alert the others of danger and keep the whole society safe. This is an adaptive trait, and it's one of the reasons that this is something that is not a disorder, is not something that's wrong with anyone. It's actually a normal biological trait that is shared not only by humans, but by animals. So this wonderful little prairie dog may in fact be a highly sensitive prairie dog that has a very special role in the prairie dog society. So what is sensory processing sensitivity? A highly sensitive person may be introverted or they may be extroverted. There are some who are highly sensitive and are high sensation seeking. They like experiences, they like stimulation. It's not all introverts. However, they may need time alone to recover from being with people or to recover from being stimulated. And highly sensitive people often really enjoy being in nature and appreciate the beauty of things deeply. They feel a deep connection and quite often are very restored by being in nature. Things like being rushed or dealing with stressful situations, deadlines, that can be exhausting. So highly sensitive people often prefer, or they work better at their own pace. Then for a highly sensitive person, not understanding why they experience the world differently other than other people can really make them feel like there's something wrong with them. In the research that I conducted, I spoke to highly sensitive people, and this is something that they all had in common, is that there was this feeling of being different, this feeling of not really moving through the world like other people do, and to different degrees, but that was something that was very common. Being aware of what it means to be a highly sensitive person and learning to adapt to the trait can really be life-changing. Being a highly sensitive person, it has benefits, and understanding how to deal with the overwhelm, how to deal with the more challenging aspects, and then really moving into the benefits of being highly sensitive can be absolutely transformative. So here's something about what sensory processing sensitivity is not. SPS is not a disorder. It's not a developmental disability. It does not cause impairment. It has benefits, and it occurs in 1 in 5 people. So it's distributed in the population. All human beings have some sensory awareness. Highly sensitive people don't have better eyesight or better hearing, but what we have is deeper processing, more internal processings going on in the nervous system. So there are disorders and developmental disabilities that have a sensory stimulation component. However, sensory overstimulation is only one aspect of sensory processing sensitivity, and it can be managed. So how do you know? We're going to do a little exercise. I'm going to show you some pictures, and then I want you to pay attention to your reactions. What thoughts or memories come up? What emotions do you feel? And what do you sense in your body? So as I pull up each image, I'm going to leave it up for about 10 seconds quietly, just to give you a moment to process it, to think about it, and to consider these questions. And then we'll talk about each one a little bit. So here we have a beautiful scene of an ocean, the mountains, the sky, the rocks and the water leading up to it, some birds. It's very peaceful. It's very calming. For a highly sensitive person, this is the kind of place that would be restorative. This is the kind of place that would be peaceful. And while all people can have an appreciation for nature, it's very common with highly sensitive people that they have a bit of a deeper appreciation, or that there's just a sense of healing that can come from being in nature where there's less sensory stimulation, and also very pleasing, pleasant stimulation. So in this picture, you can see that these two people are in love. They care about each other. People with sensory processing sensitivity have a greater sense of empathy, and they can connect deeply, not just recognizing that these two people have feelings for one another, but quite often feeling deeply in their own bodies the emotions of other people. This can be a wonderful benefit of being highly sensitive. Can also be one of the most difficult things one of the most challenging parts of being sensitive, in feeling others' emotions so deeply and not being able to distinguish your own emotions from someone else's. And we'll talk about that a little bit more soon. So friendships. Highly sensitive people tend to have few close friends. They choose to tend to want to have more meaningful relationships, and are comfortable having or would rather have like deep, meaningful conversations with people and deeper friendships, rather than having a lot of friends and more the shallow friendships. We connect, we really bond, and friendship is very important. Meaningful friendship is very, very important to highly sensitive people. So highly sensitive people are often mistaken for being shy, because when they are faced with a new situation, something unfamiliar, they tend to pause and check and take their time to take in their surroundings, take in the situation before they engage. This can be mistaken for shyness, or for fear, or for not being social. These two beautiful little toddlers are meeting some farm animals for the first time. And for a highly sensitive child, particularly, it's very important to give them the time and the space that they need to engage on their own terms. And you can see the mom is very gently, holding her daughter's hand, and the cow is having a wonderful time licking the baby's head. This is a new experience, and you can see with children how they engage with new experiences and tell a little bit about their potential sensitivities. So while not all sensitive people love reading books, the idea of time alone, quiet time alone, is often very important to people with sensory processing sensitivity. The ability to sort of shut down, not have all of the stimulation, and really restore. So even for people that are very outgoing, very social, very extroverted, if they're highly sensitive, having this time to be quiet and alone is very healthy and very helpful for them. So this kind of a situation, this huge crowd of people, this would be very overstimulating for somebody who's highly sensitive. Not that they can't be in crowds of people, and not that they can't enjoy being in crowds of people, going to concerts and festivals, but this would take more energy. It could be very draining for somebody that's highly sensitive. So now I want you to reflect a little bit on each of these pictures that you viewed. In the first one, could you imagine yourself listening to the waves? Could you easily place yourself in this beautiful space with the ocean? Could you feel the love that was shared between the couple in the photo? Did you get a sense of their connection, their feeling for one another? When you saw the picture of the little girls, did you think about how it feels to be with your own best friend, or how it felt to be a child? The farm animals and the little girls, could you imagine how these children felt meeting these animals for the first time? Or did you reflect on how you meet new experiences? Does being alone in a room full of books sound nice to you? And then compare that to what was your reaction to the picture of the crowd? Most people have some level of emotional response when they look at pictures like these, but highly sensitive people are going to experience empathy at a deeper level. They're going to have their imagination stimulated more easily. There's simply deeper processing that's going on in the nervous system when they are experiencing the world. So the effects of being highly sensitive on well-being. Highly sensitive people can become overwhelmed with sensory information. If it's too hot or too cold, too loud, too bright, too many people, intensely emotional people, being overstimulated can increase stress, and that causes the highly sensitive person, or it can cause them to either withdraw or act out. I want you to think of an example of children in a classroom. There's a lot of stimulation in the classroom. There are a lot of people. There are bright lights. It might be too hot or too cold. There's a lot going on. They have to be paying attention. And they could either withdraw or act out. And how often do we see children withdrawing or acting out? And without the knowledge that they could be highly sensitive, they could very easily be mistaken for having some other issue, or it could be much more difficult to help them. Not realizing that they're just reacting to overstimulation. So this overstimulation activates the nervous system and can cause a stress response in the body, the fight, flight, or freeze. We all know that prolonged stress is harmful to the body and to the mind. Knowledge about sensory processing sensitivity can enable someone to make more informed decisions about their environment and find ways to reduce the stress response. So this is what is key. What do highly sensitive people need? They need to understand that they have a normal physiological trait and that there is nothing wrong with them. And to recognize when they're feeling overstimulated and why they feel stressed. That recognition, that understanding and the recognition, the awareness are really key to the transformative process of being able to really embrace being highly sensitive. They need to know how to differentiate their own emotions from those that they feel from other people. And I talked about that a little bit with the picture of the people who were in love. You can imagine that it is wonderful to be able to share in happy emotions, but can be very overwhelming to have emotions and not understand where they're coming from. Again, an example in a classroom, if you think of a teacher in a classroom who might have started the day feeling fine, and then a classroom, room full of students come in, and the teacher might start to feel anxious or nervous or angry or afraid, and not really have an explanation for why they feel that way, but they're feeling it, and not realize that they're feeling, the emotions of the students in the classroom. It's like being in an ocean of emotion and not realizing, not being able to differentiate your own sense of self from that of other people. So having that understanding of what's yours and what's not yours as a highly sensitive person, that can help them to be empowered to say what they need, to make choices about their environment, because they know, they understand what they need in their environment and what's good for them. What are the best choices for them to make for their own self-care? So there are some benefits to being highly sensitive. Highly sensitive people have an immense capacity for compassion and empathy. It allows them to connect with people at a deeper level. Think about what kind of a role, what kind of a job, a career that a highly sensitive person could have with such compassion and empathy. But there are a lot of people who are counselors, social workers, educators, therapists who are highly sensitive because they have this ability to connect and have empathy, and really feel with people, and that can be used to help others. Highly sensitive people often have an ability to see things from another person's perspective more comprehensively. This really helps in terms of being able to bridge the gap between groups, to be able to see things from other people's perspectives. And it helps in social justice and activism, really being able to understand what other people experience and to get out of your own assumptions about experience and reality. And they can understand the complexity of situations and be excellent decision makers. So highly sensitive people make wonderful leaders. They make wonderful visionaries. They make wonderful problem solvers. So these are some of the benefits of being highly sensitive. And then I'm hoping there are a lot of questions in the chat. I also have a few questions for the group discussion myself. And these are things that we're going to go into really deeply in the training that's going to be offered on November 9th. What can parents do to support their highly sensitive children? If you think your child is sensitive, what do they need and what can you do? What can highly sensitive parents do to improve their own self-care? It's very challenging to be a parent and highly sensitive, particularly if you're a highly sensitive parent with highly sensitive children. And there are a lot of things, a lot of really simple tools that can be very helpful. What can helping professionals do to better serve the highly sensitive people in their communities? And what can highly sensitive helping professionals do to improve their own self-care and their work-life balance? My dissertation research really provided me with a lot of information about people's experiences around these things. And it's the basis for really the work that I'm doing now. And so if you'd like more information about that, my contact information has been put into the chat. It will be on the Be Strong Families website. And I just wanted to add here that if you'd like more information about my actual research, I would be happy to share that with you.